Welcome to the session about groups and PowerShell MasterClass. In this session, we want to show you a little bit how to automate specific tasks with PowerShell concerning Microsoft Office 365 groups and teams. My name is Tony Pohl, and this is my colleague Martina. She will speak up once she has a mic.
I'm so sorry.
So, do you want my headset?
No, yeah.
Yeah.
We can share the headset.
Yeah. Use it.
So we will just be more flexible with that. So, good afternoon, guys. My name is Martina. I'm an Office 365 MVP. Hope you can hear me at least now. So what we're going to do in the next 20 minutes, we will talk about Office 365 groups and Microsoft Teams PowerShell. And just to set up the stage is, what is Office 365 groups? Because I get that question very often, is Office 365 groups is a membership service based in the cloud, which connects a lot of other services together into one single item. So Office 365 groups is also born in the cloud. It's not on premises. So you can't sync it from your local Active Directory into Azure Active Directory, but it's a very, very useful tool to have it in there. So when we go there and what it is and how it connects to everything, and you probably saw that slide in one of the other group sessions, is Office 365 Groups is currently powering more than 22 services into Microsoft 365. So that means if you create an Office 365 group, you get an Outlook mailbox, you get a SharePoint site collection, you can get a Microsoft team, and everything else. You get a planner, planner site with that, and so on. And on the other side, you can also extend Office 365 groups because they are perfectly integrated with Microsoft Graph. If you haven't used that, you can use that as a connection to manage Office 365 groups. There's also PowerShell in place, and you can also connect the new named Power Platform to Office 365 groups, as well as there are other third-party vendors who connect to Office 365 groups through Microsoft Graph. And below is Azure Active Directory. That means every single group is based in Azure Active Directory, and you have a central management around governance, security, and compliance in there. What we're going to do in the next couple of minutes, we will show you how you can connect, what PowerShell commandlets you need to connect to Office 365 groups and to Microsoft Teams. Then we go through some essentials. So that means listing a group, listing all members of the group, adding owners to a team, adding members to a team, create channels through Microsoft Teams, through PowerShell, and so on. And then we also have examples about how you manage an expiration policy, because this is one of the hottest governance topics is I have so many teams, so many groups, they sprawl all over the place. How can I manage them? How can I put a good governance in there? And you can set up an expiration policy for that. And then we will also show you if the expiration policy hits, the group gets soft deleted for 30 days, how you can restore it from there as well. And to start with the PowerShell commandlet, before I go silent again, because we share one mic, is what you need to do for Teams PowerShell and Office 365 Groups PowerShell. And it's really exciting because that slide changed basically in the last 2 days because we had a lot of new announcements coming up. So what you need to manage Office 365 Groups and Microsoft Teams as PowerShell is first you need the Teams PowerShell commandlets, then you go with Azure AD PowerShells or Azure AD Preview PowerShells, and here we have more PowerShells to come, and the new one I want to line out is Microsoft Information Protection PowerShells, which come with the Office 365 Security and Compliance Center. And then you see also there's a brand new Exchange Online PowerShell v2 module, which is really awesome because it gives you a lot more performance if you have to manage large tenants and a lot of mailboxes and so on. And also, for those guys who watched Jeffrey Snower in his Azure Functions PowerShell scenario, there are also new PowerShells around that. This was the last slide, if you want to take any pictures, because now we are heading into the demo and we will move over to what we want to show you. So to give you an introduction, what we want to do out of a management functionality, Tony will show you how we can connect to PowerShell and how we do that. And I think...
Thanks for the handover. So I try to do it this way. So first of all, we want to connect to, let me add some value here. First, we want to connect to our PowerShell, to our tenant. And we have these modules here, these PowerShell scripts. They are available on Martina's GitHub. The link is at the end of this presentation. And we want to connect with Teams, with Azure AD. You also can use Azure AD Preview. And we want to use the credentials we typed in before for multiple PowerShells. To make this possible, you have to make the credentials read-only. That's the first step. Then we can connect to Microsoft Teams, to that module, which is already installed on my machine. I can connect to Azure AD. We want to connect to Exchange, Remote Exchange Online, and we want to connect to the new Security and Compliance PowerShell module, which is also a remote PowerShell. So I already have done this, and here you see the output for that. This is the first, the Teams login, then we have to log in for the Azure AD Preview, then we have to log in for Exchange, and the last one is the one for Security and Compliance. Once we've logged in, we can use all the various commandlets and get data out from our tenant. So the first thing, we want to get all our unified groups. That's an Exchange one, so we'll simply run that. And it timed out, so let me quickly add the password here from my KeyPass. And now I should get a list of all the Office 365 groups. That's one method to do it. Of course, I can filter. I know there's a group called Ignite. All the PowerShell syntax we have in here. The basic information here is we can access all that data that's in that tenant. We also can do things like getting all the groups in a specific order or show me all the groups that are private, etc. Again, all of these commandlets all of these scripts are in Martina's GitHub. The second thing we want to do here is we want to access Teams. And for Teams, we have our own module. So for example, we can go in here and say, give me a list of all the teams that start with my, and of course, I can create new teams here. You can see there are 3 teams here existing. I could create a new one. I already created my Wednesday because today is Wednesday. I can access this data here. For example, I select this ID here, which I did in that variable, and say, and now please give me the list of all the channels in that team here. So
it works. It works.
Perfect.
Oh.
So
Yay!
give me a second. And I have both hands free to show. Whoops. Thank you. Okay, so with that, what I also want to point out, you can use Azure Automation Accounts for running your PowerShells easily, and this is a very good method. So, for example, I've created a run book here, and here you can see some PowerShells. The same what I can do in on my local machine, of course, can run in the cloud. So I have created one PowerShell script here in the Automation Accounts. And if you look at the code here, you can see it's more or less the same code. So we say, get my credentials, which are stored safely in my Azure Automation account. They're in a Key Vault. We log in, we connect to Teams, and then, for example, we say, I want to get a list of all the teams in my tenant. For example, if we want to provision a new team here, I use the same PowerShells. I create a new team with new team display and so on. I create new channels in here, and this has a lot of benefits. You don't need to set up the environment on your local computer. You can do it in the cloud. So you simply say, I want to add this or that PowerShell module, and then you can access it. You have all the benefits of a full framework here. For example, you can go in here and say, I want to call this script here remotely with a webhook. I use, let's say, curl or any other tool or Postman or so I can go in here. I already did it for another script here. It was my Hello World script. And here is the webhooks. I also can define a schedule. And here I would see, okay, this is the webhook, and I can get this URL for that from that webhook, and then I simply can call it remotely. Or I can say, I want to run this wonderful script here at a specific time here. So if I go back to my overview and to my runbook, in that case, let's take that one, the Teams, for example. I say I want that this script runs at a specific time. I can simply go to link to a schedule and then define my schedule. When shall this script run? It all runs in a controlled environment. You install all the prerequisites once, and then you ensure that the environment is set up and you can run your scripts. So for example, what you can do with that here, you can integrate it into your workflows. The session before here showed a lot of flow tasks, and we can do the same here with that wonderful PowerShell command when I create a webhook. So for example, I want to show you one thing here, Provisional Team. And this is a very simple workflow that starts when somebody enters data into a SharePoint list, for example. We initialize some variables, and here's the interesting part, we have an approval. Once the manager of the person who started this approved the creation, the provisioning of a new team, we say, simply go into that branch here and say, if yes, then please provision a group. How do I do that? Well, with my PowerShell script, I have uploaded or I have edited in the automation account. And this is the interesting part here where I say this URL, and this URL here is simply the endpoint with containing my script, so I can use that PowerShell script from anywhere. And here I pass some parameters. Okay, what is the name of the group? What's the visibility? Shall it be a team? Shall it be a group only, etc. So this is one of the possibilities you can do easily here.
So the business benefit here is if you use Azure Automation Accounts, you can use it in Flow, and you can also use it for delegation of services. So you create your PowerShells, and they are accessible for other people to run the PowerShells remotely.
You could also use Azure Functions, of course. Azure Automation Accounts are, let's say, the easiest way to do it. Azure Functions provides a little bit more possibilities, but it's more or less a flavor thing.
And also your credentials are secured because they are stored in Key Vault. So you also have a very secure access to your PowerShell commandlets with that.
Okay, let me return to the Teams client here. So currently I have a group that's called My Wednesday Project with a channel that's called General. So let me continue and create, for example, a new team channel here. That would be the script for that. I called it My Ignite channel. And once this is done, we should see that immediately. You can see this one hidden channel here, and here's My Ignite channel. So the Teams PowerShells work pretty fast. They're very easy to use, and you can manage your teams more or less completely with that. So for example, give me all the members of a group or a team. In that case, give me that one administrator. I can add more members easily by using the add team user with that group ID. If I now check it, I could remove that one or simply run that again. We should see that this team here now has 3 members. I can remove a member and so on. Of course, we also can modify a team very easily. For example, we can rename it. We can change the nickname for that. So if I think I have a get team here, which is that one, we will see this group here, My Wednesday Project here, has a very not nicely formatted mail nickname. So this is the email address of that team. I want to change that. I can change it easily with the set team commandlet. So let me run that. And we will see that this team, if I run it again here, has now changed. So I run it again just to show the new output here. So now I've changed the email address of that group, and I've set the classification to highly confidential. So you can modify all these parameters here easily, and of course you can do things like Giphy content, blah, blah, blah. So a lot of properties you have in the teams, you all can control it with the get and set teams commandlets.
And also, if you start with Microsoft Information Protection, you can check for all teams who do not have actual classification, and you can set it afterwards and have it applied to your teams and your Office 365 groups.
Just to mention, there are some deprecated PowerShells. We have added them here, so the new functionalities get and set team, very easy to remember. A very highly asked feature is to hide a group from Office 365, from Outlook.
Or vice versa. So to explain you, when you create a team out of Teams, you do not see the team in Outlook showing up. So many customers requested that. But there could be use cases where you see, I do like to see my team in Outlook as well, because it's a distribution list, or we migrated it from a distribution list. And you can very simply hide or unhide a specific team in Outlook, that it shows up or doesn't show up. By default, if you go through Teams, it's hidden. But if you need it, you can enable it afterwards.
So in that sample, for example, we only see 2 projects starting with my, and if I run this script here where I say, okay, this is the ID of the group, please unhide it, I want to see that, simply run it, and within some seconds or minutes, depending on the tenant size, this group here will show up in Outlook. And let's try it. Yeah, it's already here, so you see in that case it was very fast. Okay, another use case we often have is, as Martina mentioned, the group's expiration. So you can set that easily here. So for example, we can see that policy that's defined with get Azure AD. So we see the policy here says, okay, it's 90 days. And if I go to my groups tenant, go to the expiration, this is what's set in here in Azure Active Directory. In the portal here, it's 90 days. So for example, we can change that easily for all groups to, let's say, 40 days, for example. So let's run that. And this is also a very quick operation and opens. If I reopen the expiration here, we see it's now 40 days. So everything you can control in the Azure portal or in other portals, the classification, we come to that a little bit later, can be set with PowerShell easily. You just, as you have seen that at the beginning, there are multiple modules you can use or you have to use for setting different parameters.
And the expiration policy, to add that, there is a session on Friday where we talk a little bit more in detail about the expiration policy. It's currently not only the date, it's also based on the usage in the team or in the group. So it doesn't mean the group will expire after 50 days. If the group is heavily used, it still stays in your tenant and every data will be kept there.
Okay, the last PowerShells we want to show here, soft delete, show me all the groups that start with my, for example. These are the Wednesday, Tuesday, and Monday project. So I select one ID, in that case my Monday project. I can simply soft delete it with Azure AD with that PowerShell script. So if I run it again, usually this is done very quickly. You can see that that group now is deleted. If you want to restore it, you can do that with the restore command. And be warned, if it's a large group or a group that contained a lot of data, this process can take a while.
Yeah, because if you have a lot of data stored in SharePoint and SharePoint Online, every single item needs to be restored. So it can take a while, but just trust the system. We deleted a lot of Yammer groups, for instance, they come back. I promise.
So as you see in my example, when I tried to restore the group, it simply wasn't completely deleted, obviously. So it takes some time. So simply wait until the group is available again.
Yeah, and there's also a commandlet available if you want to delete the group. That means it doesn't go into a soft delete status for any reason you might have. You can also really delete the group or do a hard delete on the group as well.
Exactly. So the last parts here are changing or setting the owners. That's also part of this script demo here. So for example, I want to get a list of all the Office 365 groups that have less than 2 owners, because my company policy defines I want that each team has at least 2 owners. If one owner leaves the company, for example, I don't want to have an orphan group. So you can get it with PowerShell easily. So we have defined that we list all groups that have less than 2 owners, for example, and this PowerShell group commandlet delivers us all the groups that have only 1 or 0 owners. And of course, we can automate that and say, all these groups, please run through them and add Nestor as a new owner of these groups, for example.
Yeah, and the pro tip is you always need to add the user who gets the second owner first as a member and then as an owner. So every owner is also a member of a team. This is also something which is really important. Consider that to have both roles filled in there.
For the permissions, exactly, yes.
Back to the presentation and do a quick wrap up. It's just that we look at that. So sorry for the inconvenience with the missing mic in the beginning. So what we tried to do is we wanted to show how you can automate with Azure Automation Accounts, how you can use your PowerShells also in Flow. And there are a couple of other sessions around Office 365 groups this week. So I will present on Friday morning for those who came back early from the Universal Studios. You are highly welcome to join me at 9 a.m. in the morning. There are other sessions around governance as well, and what we will show on Friday is also entitlement management and guest accounts, if you're interested in that. And if you have any more feedback on that, please rate the session. We rely on your feedback if you liked it or not. Please don't complain about missing mics. It's not our fault. And if you have any questions, I'm around here now for a while and also at the booth if you need any more information around groups. Thank you.
Thank you.